What are the oldest restaurants in St. Louis? That's a worthy subject for sure, but a better one is what are the oldest restaurants that are still playing at the top of their game? Because a lot of them aren't. That's what I want to know
No
about.
names mentioned.
I want to know about the places that were great and still are, and that's the subject of today's Arch Eats.
This episode of Arch Eats is sponsored by Westport Plaza.
Hello again, I'm George Mahey.
I'm Cheryl Bear, and we are avoiding controversy today, apparently. Maybe.
But before we jump into the Wayback Machine, it's what I can't stop thinking about this week. And for me, it's something very basic. The Bartolino's salad at Bartolino's. I think it's been unchanged for decades, and it is just so simple and so good. There's 3 kinds of lettuce, and a lot of the lettuce is iceberg. For all you iceberg haters, just deal with it.
It's crunchy.
It's great. Bite-sized squares of Volpe, Genoa salami, a nice St. Louis touch. There's a few olives, 1 marinated artichoke heart, 1 pepperoncini, 1 grape tomato. It's just so delicate and so perfect. And the house dressing is this anchovy buttermilk base, kind of Mayfairish. And there's St. Louis style pizza cheese on it. And they have to call it that. They can't call it Provel because they don't buy it from Emos.
Oh.
Did you know that? You
I
can't say
didn't.
Provel unless you buy it from the Emos company. Otherwise, it's St. Louis style pizza cheese.
I mean, I know Provel is a proper noun.
Yes.
Capitalized, for
Anyway,
all
I
the
guess.
grammar nerds.
So it's got that cheese on it. I digress. As a pro tip on this salad, you can substitute chicken or salmon for the salami, but I wouldn't do that because as it stands, the stock version, and I'm going to pull a Cheryl Bear here, might be the best house salad in the city.
Whoa,
There.
bold statement.
That's it. That's all I got for
Bold
that one.
statement. I love it. Please tell me it's overdressed as well, like any good St. Louis style
I'm
salad.
not sure that it is, but you can get it on the side, I'm sure.
It's like soup instead of salad. Well, mine is also an old school place, I think in keeping with our theme. I had Faraci's over the weekend, and let me just tell you, for my money, I'm pulling a Cheryl Bear here. Faraci's is the best St. Louis style pizza. It's my favorite. It's the gold standard. It is in the North County pizza subgenre for those who follow those sorts of things.
Even though it's not in North County
It's
anymore.
not in North County anymore. Founded in North County,
Yes.
no longer. We will get to that. But I just love it because the sauce is a little sweeter. It's in a rectangle. It's not that the pieces are in a rectangle. The pizza itself is in a rectangle. The crust, it's still really crispy, but it's got a little bit more heft to it. Sauce and cheese mixed together, they become this orange goo. It's perfection. Thank you, Faraci's, for being our St. Louis pizza hero.
And I think if you go to Faraci's website and you read the About Us part, it says the whole story. They make their own dough. They bone and slice and grind all their meat. They make everything in-house. The toppings are all perfect. They pre-cook the bacon so it's not too greasy. Everything's made with the best ingredients. They say that and they mean it. And it's a really, really good pizza.
Well, that's why you get hamburger on pizzas, and a lot of times it's like pellets. This is actual hunks of fresh ground beef. It makes all the difference. And Faraci's got me thinking about these iconic restaurants. They've been around for years, I think since 1968. And there are so many places in St. Louis that have been around for that long that are these icons of the St. Louis restaurant scene, the oldies but goodies. And I feel like this is a really important conversation to have because we've been losing our institutions over the last year. We've lost Tony's, we've lost Frank and Helen's. So many beloved, storied places seem to be going by the wayside. I think it's really important for us to honor, celebrate, and patronize these local institutions.
And we wrote about these. I wrote an entire list in chronological order, all of them, starting with Beffa's, which is the oldest one.
Yes.
We've got these all listed. You and I picked a bunch of what we think are the good ones, and some we're just not going to mention because it's not proper.
Yeah, exactly. We're just picking out our must visit.
We'll be right back.
The Porter Apartments are Westport Plaza's first luxury apartment complex. This modern community offers studio, 1- and 2-bedroom residences and premium amenities, including a resort-style pool, gaming lounge, fitness center, a pet park, and more. The Porter provides unparalleled access to a vibrant nightlife scene, including more than 10 bars and restaurants, and the return of Parties on the Plaza, a lively event held every third Thursday beginning in May. Visit westportstl.com to explore leasing options. And now, back to the show.
I started writing this article and I said, I know what the oldest one is. It's Crown Candy Kitchen.
Yes.
And I was wrong.
Yes.
That's one of your favorites for sure.
I love Crown Candy. Crown Candy is, when you think of St. Louis food, and if you have somebody in from out of town where you have to take them, Crown Candy may be number one on that list, possibly next to Ted Drew's, but Crown Candy is just an institution located in Old North. It has been there since 1913.
Yes. If you're
112
doing the
years
math.
old, founded by Greek immigrants. They started out strictly as a candy shop. We think of Crown Candy today for their malts, their shakes, that BLT sandwich with so much bacon. I might have a heart attack just talking about it. But they actually started out as a confection shop, and they actually added the soda fountain side in the 1950s when the current owner, Andy, his dad, said people kept getting confused because it was called Crown Candy Kitchen. And they were like, why is there no kitchen? So they just added the soda fountain and all of that. But what a lovely place. We've talked about the malts. We've talked about the candies. Apparently,
Yeah.
Easter is the big time of year for
And
them.
I just found, I said, how many bunnies do you make?
Oh.
9 to 10,000 bunnies.
Oh my gosh,
And-
so many bunnies.
And he makes Easter monkeys too. There's a whole story you can
Oh,
read
I
about
love
the Easter
it.
monkeys, but he does 1,000 of those too. So
Love it.
anyway, yes, homemade ice cream, homemade candy, the great sandwiches.
The story behind that BLT, it did not start out that it was supposed to be some phenomenon. It was just a standard BLT. And apparently the employees kept adding so much bacon that people would come in and think, oh my God, what's going on here? And it became an urban legend until they decided to just fully embrace it and make this monstrous sandwich, which if you've gone to Crown Candy, you have to have that BLT.
They've got to be one of the biggest bacon consumers, wholesale wise, in the city.
Oh, they have
I
to
mean,
be.
they're deep frying it. They can't even cook it in the oven.
Oh
The
my
ovens can't keep up. So they're
Yeah,
deep frying.
right. Exactly. What a masterpiece. What a jewel of St. Louis. And you talked about how Crown Candy is not technically the oldest restaurant. It is Beffa's.
Yeah. And Beffa's is a whole lot older than that. 1898.
No.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
And it was an interesting story because Beffa's had a little hiatus between 2011 and 2019, and they reopened under the fourth generation owner, Paul Beffa. And it was funny because the grand opening was held on St. Patrick's Day in 2020, mid-pandemic, exactly 122 years after his great-grandfather opened the
Oh.
doors. So much history. It was known for being unknown. There was no menu there. There were no prices there, if you remember, no listed phone, no outside lights, no signs. And it was just this secret that people really didn't want other people to know about. And you had the executives and politicians and priests and firemen and everybody lining up at this cafeteria together. And it was just this wonderful secret place. You know, if you knew about it, you kept it to yourself.
Right.
So that's what
So
happened
no one
there.
would find you there,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. But now under Paul, it's more of a, I want to call it an elevated sports bar.
Mhm.
It's changed complexion a little bit. Craft cocktails, big emphasis there. They're $11. It's $7 at happy hour. That's a great price. That's the way it should be. Great place to stop before or after a St. Louis City SC game. Their pizzas are done by Uncle Leo's, who does pizzas right. They do smash burgers several ways, and their fries are, not sure the spice that Paul created for this, but it's just, everybody goes berserk about the fries. So Beffa's 127 years old and going strong.
I've got another place that reminds me of Beffa's in the vein of politicians and news people and who's who of St. Louis would go there to play hooky. This is Filoni's.
Yes.
The storied, would you call it a neighborhood tavern? Would you call it a bar, a restaurant? Whatever you want to call it. It's such an institution here in St. Louis. Now, this one was founded in 1916. It actually operated as a speakeasy during Prohibition. There's some lore about they got raided during Prohibition and were running upstairs trying to dump all the
I did
booze in
not
the
know that.
toilet. Yeah, they don't know if it's actually true or not, but that's the family lore and they go with it. But fun little place.
And speaking of
Yeah.
Uncle Leo's Pizza, they have that there because Alex Filoni went to Kansas City to get the recipe in 2009
Yes.
from his Uncle Leo, and
Nice.
they serve it at Filoni's.
It's poetic,
Yeah,
right? Look
yeah.
at the circle of pizza life here. They opened as basically an amenity to the steel mill that was in the area, and they just became a place where you would go for beer, home cooking. And then when the steel mill closed, they had to rethink what their business was going to be, and they were kind of in the middle of nowhere. So they decided to become a destination spot with some music. So they hired an accordion player to play from 1 to 5 p.m. on a couple of weekdays, and it became the place to be. They talk about 1 to 2 p.m. on a Thursday afternoon being 4 deep at that bar with everyone playing hooky from work. Politicians,
It's like
local celebrities. It was a hopping
sounds like a
place.
precursor to karaoke, maybe with that, right?
Exactly. And then they started getting into even more music when one of the sons, his name was Alex Jr., he had this voice like Frank Sinatra, and he would start performing there and develop such a following. And unfortunately, he passed away, but that music feel of the place still infuses everything there. And still on Friday nights, it is quite a hot spot to go to and have that experience. So a little bit of St. Louis history there you feel like you're engaging in when you sit down and listen to that music.
Yeah, all of these are really St. Louis history. Piccadilly at Manhattan.
Oh, I love Piccadilly,
I
that pot
love
pie.
I love the place. 1901. And what I love is the name says where it is. It's the corner of Piccadilly and Manhattan. The fourth generation of the same family still runs it. The mom and dad live upstairs. It couldn't be more charming. And the daughter runs the restaurant. And you're right, known for their pot pies, known for their really reasonably priced entrees. I was there not long ago, and everything is under 20 bucks, huge portions. Again, almost another Cheryl Bear, maybe the best value restaurant for the money in the city.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Piccadilly at Manhattan.
Totally agree with that. Just the kind of comfort food that really just soothes your soul. Speaking of soothing your soul, what about Joya's?
Yeah.
Joya's has to be on any list of storied old St. Louis restaurants. Can you believe it feels so relevant and such an important part of the current St. Louis dining scene? And it's been around for over 100 years, 1918. Started out as a grocery store. The owner had this special recipe for this salam de testa, which, for those who
Yes,
maybe you want to know, you don't want to know, it's cured pig's head
Yep.
and beef and the
We
special
call
seasoning.
it pork cheeks, which is a little more civilized.
Yeah, that sounds a little more refined.
Yes.
Elevated there.
And it's a boiled sausage. It's not this aged salami. It's not
Exactly.
coarse cut. It's almost a pate, a
Yes.
terrine. And people need to know that because they're going in hearing about this, quote, hot salami sandwich, and it's not what people expect. It's delicious, but I would recommend for those that haven't had it, just maybe to kind of ease into it with one of their other sandwiches,
Yes.
which has that hot salami on it. There's an Italian trio, the pork NATO, love that. The hog father and the spicy Daggett's my go-to.
Oh.
Again, it's got some different meats and that hot salami, so you're kind of getting the best of both worlds. But oh my gosh, I love Joya's Deli. And the owner, Alex Donnelly, is so into quality. He said, everybody loves this. And remember when he went to Busch Stadium? They weren't quite
Yep.
doing it up to his standards, and he couldn't quite get it right with them. And he pulled those sandwiches out of Busch Stadium.
That is a testament to his commitment to honoring the legacy of this place. He's not just going to make money for the sake of making money. He wants to get it right. And that's so important.
And it's part of his legacy. He tells a story that the first bite of solid food that he was given as an infant was a piece of hot salami from Joya's.
Gosh.
And he said he's got 4 kids. He and his wife have 4 kids. They were all given hot salami as their first bite of food. So maybe they'll end up in the
I love
business as
it.
well. Isn't that just
It's
a
their
charming?
birthright. It's
It's
like-
perfect.
The realization of the prophecy.
And one other side note about that's interesting. I just talked to him recently. I said, how's it going? And he said, each location has now added another register just for third-party delivery. That part of the
Wow.
business has gotten so big they've had to put a new lane in
Oh
for
gosh.
third-party delivery people. So,
Wow.
4,000 pounds of that salami a
Oh
week.
my
Think about that. 2
gosh.
tons a week is what he makes.
Good grief.
Yeah, it's a great
Wow.
St. Louis story, and I think that's one of the sandwiches that St. Louis is known for, that hot salami
It's
sandwich.
iconic. That is the sandwich. Again, like we talked about Crown Candy, you've got to go there and you've got to have a malt and a BLT. You have to go to Joya's if you are visiting St. Louis. You have to go
And
there
really,
and get a
any
sandwich.
of those sandwiches are great.
Yes, absolutely. I talked about Faraci's in the beginning of the episode, but Faraci's is on my list as places that have to be mentioned as storied St. Louis institutions. I guess we're calling them the 50 plus club because none of these places are younger than 50 years old.
Right.
Faraci's was founded in 1968 and it was founded in Ferguson. There was a flurry of great pizzerias founded in North County. I'm thinking like Ferguson, Florissant, Delwood, Jennings. You think of places like Faraci's, you think of
Peroni's.
Peroni's, which I still go to this day. There was Ponticello's up there. There's a couple that are a little further west, like Nick and Elena's and Sarah's Pizza. I feel like they're all somewhat related to one another in some way. I want to figure out the family tree of all this at some point. But again, like I talked about, they're really a unique subset of St. Louis style pizza. I actually find the cheese and sauce to be a little bit more liquidy. Sometimes Provel, everyone says it gets gooey or gloppy. These North County ones, and I think Faraci's the best example, it's almost like a delicate cheese sauce that it becomes, this sweet red tomatoey cheese sauce. And the crust just has a little bit more crunch and heft to it. So it really holds up to that goo. You're not getting those floppy ones. You're getting, I have really thought this through, George. I promise you, I'm nerding out on this pizza. But anyway, experience it for yourself.
All right,
Faraci's.
I will see your North County pizzerias
Oh.
and raise you a Ferrado's
Okay, yes,
in Rock
Ferrado's.
Hill.
Very
Speaking of
respectable.
iconic pizza
Yes.
styles, this is the thinnest crust pizza in
Yes.
St. Louis. When you hear cracker crust pizza, this is
Uh-huh.
what you're describing Ferrado's. That place has been around since 1956. Now they have that really cool louvered roof out in back, one of three,
Oh, yeah.
so they can completely shut out the elements on their patio. They've got a dining room and they've got space below that you can do all kinds of events. But I just love this pizza. And it's almost, I hate to say this, but I would almost call it diet pizza because it's so thin. They don't
I
use a
love
lot of
it.
cheese. It's if you're on a diet and you have to have pizza, I would suggest Ferrado's.
Carb conscious pizza, right?
There's one that I love that's got fried spinach and goat cheese and mozz and
Ooh.
roasted garlic, and that's really about it. So it's kind of light on the toppings too, and you do that and with a large deluxe salad, which is just excellent.
Yeah, their salads are great.
It doesn't get any better than that.
That's a classy St. Louis pizza, George. So you hear me talk about this place all the time. It's such a staple of my monthly meals. And I think it is for a lot of people. And this is Yen Ching, which I don't know if it was the first. I think they claimed that they were the second Chinese restaurant in St. Louis, founded in 1972. And this is really of that style of Chinese American restaurants that I think there is a place for this. A lot of people talk about like, oh, it's not traditional Chinese and they had to alter the recipes to fit the American palate. But I think in doing so, these small business owners, like the gentleman who opened it, who was a South Korean immigrant, they created a special subset of American cuisine. And we should be proud of this. We should embrace this. I'm not saying it's the most authentic Szechuan chicken you're ever going to have, but it's wonderful. Their hot braised chicken is one of my favorite things to eat. I love their hot and spicy eggplant. They have this crispy rice soup where they pour the hot soup over the sizzling rice. Just a wonderful place. It is also such a staple of a lot of people who don't celebrate Christmas. A lot of St. Louis Jewish community goes there for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. It's a tradition.
Yeah, it's mayhem on Christmas
Yes,
Eve. I've done it.
It is, but it's fun. It's such a fun tradition. I love Yenching.
And I think it was Joe Pollock that way back in the 70s, he dubbed several restaurants, the class of 72, several restaurants that he said changed the course of dining in St. Louis. Balaban's, Anthony's, Jefferson Avenue Boarding House,
Yep.
Stuff's, and Yen Ching. The only one left? Yen Ching.
That is a very interesting distinction.
An
that
interesting
they
list.
have.
And I love, you go back that far and go,
Yeah.
he wasn't far off there. Another place that the Countians have loved for, well, since 1947 is Spencer's Grill out in Kirkwood. There's a new owner out there. It was very interesting. The old owner said, I'm not going to sell it to anybody that's going to do anything except continue what
love
has
it.
been. If you're going to open a donut shop here, don't even talk to me because I
Yes.
won't talk to you. So the owners are the folks that own Honeybee's Biscuits and Good Eats right up the
Mhm.
street. Very talented folks. And they brought with them a talented chef, a former sous chef at Mainlander. So there's some chef touches now going on at Spencer's Grill. And there were these folks that said, change can be good, but too much change is bad. And they
Yes.
didn't change too much. The best-selling item, the number 3, is still the number 3, although they changed the quality of the bread. They
Mhm.
improved that. They improved the quality of the bacon. So there's things that improve slightly, but those crispy-edged pancakes,
Ugh.
still the same. Those hash browns,
Oh, yeah.
you can't mess with perfection there. They've added a Juicy Lucy. They've added a few things, but not many. There's a pancake burrito that they just, now I think we might be going too far. But anyway,
Yeah,
if you're
right.
into something new, go with the pancake burrito. Otherwise, you can't beat the number 3 at Spencer's Grill. Open every day, 6:30 to 2.
Oh, I do love me some Spencer's Grill. I like their burgers. I love a good diner burger. And
Good smash burger.
they're just the quintessential diner here in St. Louis. Quintessential Irish pub, O'Connell's.
Speaking of good burgers,
Yes, speaking of good burgers, speaking of roast beef sandwich. Oh my gosh, that roast beef, which a lot of people call the roast beast. It's such a wonderful, wonderful sandwich. But I just love O'Connell's because when I think about it, you go back to Gaslight Square. I would have loved to see Gaslight Square in its heyday, and that's where O'Connell's was founded in 1962. It wasn't founded by anyone named O'Connell. It apparently was named after Daniel O'Connell, who was considered one of Ireland's liberators. So
I
no
love that.
O'Connell there.
I love that 3 non-Irishmen opened
Yes.
O'Connell's
Yes.
Irish pub. And it was Ann Pollock it was great. And she said O'Connell's was a pub back when St. Louisans needed the word explained to them. Isn't that great? Anyway,
So fun.
that's just an iconic spot. It's now under the tutelage of
John Parker.
John Parker.
Yes. Yeah, Jack Parker, the late great Jack, who was basically the face of O'Connell's. His son John owns it right now. I'll tell you my favorite fun fact about O'Connell's is the great beat writer Allen Ginsberg apparently went to O'Connell's when it was in
Interesting.
Gaslight Square. So, fun fact, little touch of greatness there.
My fun fact there is that is the home of the classically perfect tempt burger.
Yeah.
You order a medium rare burger
Perfect.
and it's medium rare all the way through.
Perfection.
It's not just this little blob of medium rare in the middle of the burger because the temperature of the meat's wrong, the temperature of the grill's wrong, something's wrong. These guys have mastered this, and it's like it should be very easy, but just try to do that sometime. Cook a burger mid-rare, front to back, and
Oh,
side
yeah.
to side. It's hard to do.
Hitting a temp on a burger
It's an art.
is an art, and it's way more difficult than anyone thinks it is. So yeah, hats off to the folks at O'Connell's who can consistently do that.
Speaking of burgers, Carl's Drive-In.
Oh, Carl's. Love Carl's.
It's, I think, 1959. That's 66 years old out
Mhm.
in Brentwood. It's as iconic as it can possibly be. This is a place that I like to try different things. I don't stray from my standard order. I get a double cheese. I get a tamale with chili. I get a large root
Tamale.
beer and sometimes some fries. People that know, and people that don't should go there. It's a classic lacy-edged smash burger. What's new at Carl's? They are open 7 days a week now.
God bless him.
When the new owner bought it a couple years ago, he said, one thing I'm going to do is increase the hours. And he did. Didn't increase the seats. There's still 16 stools.
Oof.
It's still cash only. As far as I'm concerned, you go in and try to get the seat right by the grill.
Ooh.
So you can watch those
Oh,
things
I
being
love
made
it.
on the east side of the
Love
building
it.
there. It doesn't get any better. They do have a Curly Q hot dog. Have you ever tried that?
No.
I keep seeing
They
it.
like split.
They
score it?
They score it on the side and they deep fry it so it fits on a hamburger bun. And they
Oh.
serve it
Oh,
with the burger accoutrement, but it's a hot dog. It's a Nathan's hot dog, and people say it's just insanely good, but I've just never done it. So
oh.
there's something we can do.
But how do you stray from that
You
perfectly
can't.
sandwiched
You know, you
burger?
can't. Do you have it like as an
Oh,
appetizer or
gosh.
for dessert? Because you got to
Yeah.
have that burger in there somewhere.
Maybe you do it as an app and then you just take
Hot
a
dog
very
app.
long nap afterward, right? Well, Amaghetti's is on my list.
Should be.
I love Amaghetti's so much. We have a class in 1916 on here. I've seen a couple places we've talked about that are 1916, but that's the founding of Amaghetti's as a bread bakery. It wasn't until the 60s that Mrs. Amaghetti put it on the map with her Amaghetti special, which if you're making a list of the most iconic sandwiches in St. Louis, the Amaghetti special is
It's right
definitely
up
on
there.
that
Yep.
list. It's not fancy. It's ham, roast beef, salami, Provel, lettuce, tomato.
It's a sub sandwich.
It's a sub sandwich, but the dressing is the key. She took 8 months to perfect this dressing, and it's the perfect texture where it's not too loose, but not super creamy. It's got these great seasonings, herbs in there. I don't know what she put. She must have kissed it with a little touch of heaven, but it's so wonderful. And, you know, Amaghetti was on the hill, and then they kind of went through some stuff where they relocated out to the county, and then there was some legal stuff. But now they are in full force on the hill, different location than the original, under the ownership of Anthony Favazza.
This was 1916, and he bought it
Yes.
100 years later. He bought it
Wow.
in 2016.
Oh,
Anthony likes to acquire old places
yeah.
and make them his and make them new again. He
Yes.
doesn't want them to go away. So
Yes.
Amaghetti's is one. In the same light, he bought Hank's Cheesecakes.
Yes.
He owns Hank's Cheesecakes as well. So that's another one that he picked up. And he also now owns 50% of Missouri Baking Company. So all these iconic St. Louis institutions are in the good hands of Anthony Favazza, who happens to be an attorney. He was a corporate attorney before. He goes, I wanted to come back and do restaurants and do exactly what I'm doing. So
Oh,
he
how
is. That new place over in the Haneke Hardware building is really cool because it's basically new construction in an old building. So
Yeah.
he's kind of got a what's old is new again look to it. And he hired a ghost sign painter to do some ghost signs, which are new signs that are meant to look old. So he's got one inside and he's got one outside that says the Amaghetti Special, world famous. It looks like it's 100 years old and it was
Wow.
painted like 2 years ago. It's
Wow.
really cool, really well done. And Amaghetti's lives on.
So I've got one more on my list that has a very fun distinction. This is Sportsman's Park. Sportsman's Park, if you are a baseball fan, hockey fan, any sort of sports enthusiast in St. Louis, you've made a pilgrimage to Sportsman's Park just to look at the memorabilia that they have there. The walls are absolutely covered in it. It's a Ladue neighborhood institution. It was founded as Jackie's Place by
Right.
former NFL Hall of Famer Jackie Smith and his business partner Norm Probstein. The thing that's so fun about Sportsman's Park, we owe them a debt of gratitude. The legend is they are the place that brought the buffalo wing to St. Louis. The story is apparently when Jackie was playing football, he would go to Buffalo when they were playing against the Bills, and he had buffalo wings there and loved them so much that when he got involved in this restaurant, he was like, I'm bringing these buffalo wings here. So whether or not that is 100% true that they were the first place, they certainly put them on the map here in town. And definitely it's a place if you're a buffalo wing enthusiast to check out.
They kind of took that one step further, and people say they have the best chicken strips in town. And again, they've taken that whole buffalo wing
Oh, yes.
treatment and applied them to chicken strips. But yeah, that's a great place out in Ladue.
I love it.
Not really a sports bar, but it's iconic as it can be. Blueberry Hill, you might have heard of it.
Oh, I love
It's a mandatory stop for, I
Yes.
think, anybody coming to St. Louis, a cornerstone of the Loop, obviously, owned by Joe Edwards, who I dubbed the Duke of Delmar when I wrote a
Yes.
story about him. Anyway, interesting about Joe, he is a graduate of John Burroughs and then Duke,
Oh,
which
wow.
most people don't know.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And the whole story, I'll be brief, he loved records. He amassed a collection of
Oh
42,000
my God.
records and memorabilia, and he didn't know what to do with them. So he finished college and he's decided he wanted to do a bar. And he said his parents supported him in every other way, shape, and form, but they would not give him money to start this bar.
Wow.
Borrowed 10 grand from his friends and started Blueberry Hill, and the rest is history. Incredibly, all those photos on the wall of
Yes.
all those rock stars, you're just a mild music fan to appreciate it and appreciate the fact that these rock stars are in all stages of their career, and Joe Edwards' face never changes. He's the Dorian Gray of restaurant people in
Right.
St. Louis. I don't know how it looks like this has to be doctored.
Oh, yeah.
It has to be Photoshopped. But anyway, Joe's ageless. Blueberry Hill is a great place for burgers. Obviously, they've won a lot of burger competitions. It's where my wife goes for chicken soup, where when
Really?
she's sick, Blueberry Hill's chicken soup. It's
Yeah.
a thing that a lot of people don't know about.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you my order at Blueberry Hill, if I'm feeling like I need some comfort, is I get their buffalo fries. Their buffalo fries, think of a disc, almost like a really fat French fry version of a potato chip, but they're coated in buffalo seasoning. And then I love to dip them in blue cheese dressing. They've got great blue cheese there. So,
So interesting.
oh my gosh, one of my favorites.
Hey, there's a place out in Frontenac called Grazzi's.
Oh, yes.
And you'd never know it because it's like maybe the worst location of a restaurant. It's on German Boulevard, which no one's ever heard of, basically at the corner of Conway and Lindbergh.
Mhm.
Anyway, they started on the hill. They moved to Frontenac, I forget how many years ago, but it's been a minute. But it's one of these cafeteria-style places that it's like Italian quick service. And
Yeah.
they have got an incredible house salad, again, made with iceberg lettuce. And
yeah.
they've got giant bowls of it there with green olives or without. I think their croutons are deep fried. It's a really good house salad. They've got the roast beef sandwich is just classic. I think on Wednesday they have a griddled meatball burger.
Oh my God.
They've got a
Is it Wednesday today? we need to head out there after this.
they do an Italian version of a Cuban that they call the Italian press. It's such a throwback place. And you walk in and it kind of takes you a second like, wait, am I supposed to pick up that cafeteria tray and walk that line? Yes, you are. And you'll be glad you did. 1972, 53 years old, Grazzi's out in Frontenac. But we should probably end with, I mean, this is like a time capsule restaurant, fine dining on the hill. And it's called Dominic's.
Oh,
Dominic
yes.
Galati is one of the longtime kings of the hill. He's one
yeah.
of the OGs for sure. And I think Dave Lowry called the interior timeless. And it is. It's got this old
Yes.
school Italian vibe to it. And it's formal, but I think as Dave said, it's formal, but it doesn't intimidate.
Yes.
And if you want to
Correct.
take your kids to a place to see what fine dining is, take them to Dominic's. And I
Yes.
think that was a very good explanation of how to do it. Italian-American cooking, I don't
Yep.
think it's especially super classic or not modern at all, but here's the cool part about Dominic's. They've been doing this for a while. It's called Winter Opera Nights at Dominic's. Have you ever done one of these?
No.
They do them. It's 2 nights in June and July and August, and it's a 4-course dinner. And you've got the members of Winter Opera going around and singing. They just stroll through the restaurant, and,
How
and
cool
you'll
is
hear
that?
one of them's Broadway tunes. And I think the July one this year is Romantic Italian Serenades. And in
Oh.
August, it's Diner's Choice, and you can say, can you sing this or that?
Oh, that's
Anyway,
lovely.
this is 6 different nights this summer, but it's really worth doing because it's totally unique. It's very, very unusual. You don't see this
So cool.
anywhere, and it's 4 courses of really great food. Dominic, he also is a singer, and you will see him occasionally come out and serenade people at the table. And he's just this classic dude chef. And
Yeah.
I saw him on a kitchen clip one time on TV. He was making a recipe, and he's adding wine, and he looked at the camera, and he said, if you don't like wine, too bad. And just, I think the clip ended that way. It was just classic.
I love it. Oh, these are so great, George. I'm getting hungry thinking about all these places here.
We'll be right back. This episode of Arch Eats is supported by South Grand. The South Grand Cocktail Crawl returns to the South Grand Business District, stretching from Arsenal to Humphrey Street on May 15th from 4 to 8 p.m. Explore the neighborhood as you sample cocktail specials from local businesses and discover what makes each spot unique. Plan your route and find more details at southgrand.org/events.
And now back to the show.
So Staying on the subject of older restaurants, that brings us to today's micro rant. One of the things that keeps restaurants from achieving greatness, in my opinion, is their unwillingness to change up a menu.
Sure.
I mean, I love if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Mhm.
But I think there's a point in time, especially to attract a new generation, to attract some new diners, to put more people in the seats. You've got to change things up a little bit. And I'm just surprised that people are so insistent, like, no, we're not going to change a thing. What do you think about that? Am I being too cruel?
See, George, this may be one situation where
Wait, you're gonna
I
disagree with me?
disagree with you. I am such a stickler for historical accuracy, and I want a place to be a time capsule. I feel like the world is so out of control and things change and come and go. And I love to know that I can go somewhere and I can count on it to be exactly what I want. So I say,
I-
if you're going to add a little, kind of like the Spencer's Girl folks,
Yes, that's what.
do that.
That's kind of what I'm saying. A little change is good. If you're
Yes.
going to be completely rigid, I don't think so. I think if you're not moving forward, in these days, you're moving backward. And I think that people have to take heed of that.
Would you ever think that I would be the rigid one over you?
No,
This
no,
is
I'm
funny.
sitting here, I'm just dumbfounded.
What's next?
As I scratch my head on the other side of the table here, we're going to wrap up this edition of Our Eats. Be sure to follow us and share with your friends. And we always provide links in the show notes for everything you heard about today. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and follow along on Instagram at St. Louis Mag. And feel free to give us a follow personally at George Mahey and Cheryl A. Bear.
If you loved what you heard, show us some love by rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts. And if you're hungry for even more content, you can subscribe to our dining newsletters for the freshest coverage on the local restaurant and culinary scene.
Best dishes, and see you next time.